at 10 p.m. with me, Vishnu Shom, on the program tonight. A stinging judgment by the Supreme Court which dismisses petitions seeking an inquiry into the death of Judge Loya, the CBI judge who was investigating the Sohrabuddin Sheikh fake encounter case in which Amit Shah, the BJP President, was once an accused. The Supreme Court says the petitioners in the case brazenly misutilized the courts for their personal agenda. Tonight we ask whether after the Supreme Court's verdict there is still any mystery in the death of Judge Loya. But as usual, let's take a look at some of the big stories which are trending tonight on NDTV.com and Twitter. Andhra Pradesh and Telangana have junked the centre's cash crunch logic. The shortage of cash is neither sudden or temporary, says the Telangana Minister K.T. Rama Rao. Rejecting petitions for an independent investigation into Judge Loya's case, the Supreme Court says the petitions are scandalous. The only woman police officer in the team that investigated the Kathua child rape was disparaged by the lawyer defending the accused, who said she is a girl, how intelligent can she be? She refuses to answer this insult. And the big Twitter trend as usual this time of the year, or whenever the IPL season is on, the big match taking place over there. But it's been a big day for news, and this is the story that's been very much in the headlines today. Rahul Gandhi has also now responded to BJP attacks after the verdict in the Judge Loya case. Let's quickly take a look at this story.
In just 15 minutes, before a packed courtroom, a bench made up of Chief Justice Deepak Mishra and Justices A.M. Khanvilkar and D.Y. Chandrachud put an end to the demand of a probe into the death of CBI Special Judge B.H. Loya.
As the main reason, the court cited statements of judicial officers who were with Judge Loya in his last minutes. These statements, recorded by Maharashtra government, reportedly say that there was nothing amiss in the manner in which he died.
As the court put it, there is no reason for this court to disbelieve statements of the judicial officers who stayed with Judge Loya. Extraneous allegations were made as if the judicial officers were conspirators to a murder. There is no doubt that it is clear from the judicial officer's statement that Judge Loya died of natural causes.
But the court did not stop there, hitting out at the petitioners who had demanded a probe, saying they were acting out of political motives.
Business rivalries to be resolved in the market and political rivalries in the hall of democracy. These PILs are scandalous and amount to criminal contempt. The PIL was misused with political agenda that one man was behind everything. The last is a reference to BJP President Amit Shah. Judge Loya died in December 2014 while hearing the Sohrabuddin encounter case in which BJP chief Amit Shah was an accused. Later, Shah was discharged from the case. During the hearings, lawyers for the petitioners had alleged that the court was under pressure from Mr. Shah. The judgment has shocked the petitioners.
Was Judge Loya not a part of the judiciary? Was Judge Loya not a part of the system? Is there no discrepancy in his inquiry report?
So what are judges holy cows? It's not just a terrible judgment, it's a black day for the Supreme Court.
Lawyers for the Maharashtra government, however, welcomed the court decision.
Petitions went to the extent of virtually saying that the judge's colleagues who were with him when he died were telling lies. It's not a case where there is no direct evidence. The direct evidence was the people who were with him.
Though the petitioners have two more legal options to seek review of this judgment, but it's highly unlikely that the top court will reconsider its verdict. So for all legal purposes, Judge Loya's case is closed. With Monideepa Banerjee and Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor, this is Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, NDTV.
Well, after this judgment by the Supreme Court, and it's a stinging verdict, we'll be looking at some of the points raised by the court. The big question is there any mystery still that remains as far as the death of Judge Loya is concerned, or is this something that we need to move beyond? Joining us to look at this, Muhammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress Party. We should be joined in a few moments by Ahmed Abdi, the president of the Bombay Lawyers Association. Both the Congress Party and the Bombay Lawyers Association say that justice has not been delivered. I believe the Bombay Lawyers Association are keen also in filing for a review petition of this particular verdict. Aishwarya Bhatti is an advocate with the Supreme Court. She joins us now, as also Nishant Katneshwarkar. He's the standing counsel for the state of Maharashtra. They believe that justice has been delivered. Mohammed, let me come to you first, and let's just look at some of the things the judges have said today in the judgment. The misuse of the public interest litigation is a serious matter of concern for the judicial process. It is a travesty of justice for the resources of the legal system. At one end of that spectrum are those cases where public interest petitions are motivated by a desire to seek publicity. At the other end of the spectrum are petitions which have been instituted at the behest of business or political rivals to settle scores behind the facade of a public interest litigation. This was essentially a useless PIL, is what the Supreme Court has suggested. How do you respond?
Well, considering that we weren't parties before the Supreme Court, and considering that we weren't represented in any form whatsoever,
but you felt very strongly for the issue, so I'm not suggesting that you represented.
So it wouldn't be appropriate for me to speak on behalf of any of the petitioners. But you're absolutely right, Vishnu. This is an issue with which we've joined cause vehemently and strongly. We've taken it up to the president, we've taken it out into the People's Court, we've united with 15 opposition parties. I
know what you've done, but I'm asking you, in light of what the Supreme Court has said, do you not accept that the legal proceedings in the Supreme Court were a waste of time?
Well, that is, again,
that's what the court has ruled.
Since we were neither a party nor were we present, it is not appropriate for us to pronounce on that.
But that's an excuse, Mohammed.
I'm certain that the Supreme Court must have in its wisdom arrived at this
10 seconds ago said the Congress party has been part of the process, if not inside the court, then outside the court.
Yes, that's an
so
important
you have been
nuance
attached in some way with this, and you are raising the issue today. Right? Randeep Surjewala had a huge press conference today where he listed all the points where he believes justice has not been delivered.
Absolutely.
So how do you now say that you cannot comment on what has happened?
No. First of all,
is it because you don't want to get in legal trouble? I understand that.
No, absolutely. Look, there are times when one must speak out and one must differ even from the conventional wisdom, whatever the cost. And in this case, I don't believe that we are making a mistake. I believe we are taking a very, very good step. The Constitution permits us to speak our mind. 4 years of living in Modi's India, a lot of people have forgotten that
but
we have the right to differ with our
institutions. Where is justice not been delivered?
No, I'll tell you something.
Briefly, and then I'll get my other panelists.
I just need 20 seconds.
Carry on.
First of all, I'll tell you, we have raised 10 questions today, as you rightly pointed out. These 10 questions relate to a series of circumstances, an unfortunate set of events, Vishnu, where everything seems to be going wrong in the chain of custody.
But isn't it true that
none of these 10 have been answered
before the judgment actually came out?
That is correct. And what did we do
after
after
that? You have read the judgment.
By now, yes, we have. We have read all 114 pages of it. We've gone through the entire judgment. And I can tell you
point by point,
there are points where learned judges have not addressed the concerns we've raised. Like, for example, the issue of the ECG. Now, we talk about the fact that there are multiple views. The Lordship say, no, we will take this at face value. The issue of the occupancy register at the guest house, the learned judges say that they will accept that evidence at face value.
Let me try and go across to
Post-mortem, they accepted face value.
Aishwarya Bhatti on this. Aishwarya, two separate points. The issue of whether an ECG was properly conducted, whether an ECG machine was actually working. The Supreme Court seemed to suggest that there was an ECG and there was a particular spike. If I recall, they referred to it as a T spike, and the Supreme Court believed that that was evidence enough that there was a heart attack. So do you believe there is still any controversy left as far as the ECG part is concerned? I'll discuss the other parts later.
Well, and who decides this, Vishnu? You know, somebody has a take on one aspect of ECG, somebody has a take on the other aspect of it. These are expert evidences. Who decides it finally? Who's the main arbiter? Who decides what is the law and how it is to be interpreted? If you don't trust the Supreme Court, then what are you questioning? This is not a trial that we are, we are arriving at. This is not a shoddy investigation that we are looking at. This is a judgment of the Supreme Court. And it is most unfortunate that it is being analyzed in a manner which is highly contemptuous, both towards the Supreme Court as well as the judges who were on the bench. This judgment could not have been more scathing. The manner in which the Supreme Court has, and things did go beyond hand before the Supreme Court during the hearing of this case. And the Supreme Court has come out very scathingly on that. The manner in which there is comment that this actually case amounts that, criminal contempt should be initiated against the councils who were and the parties who were initiating this, but they have refrained from doing that for a reason that is mentioned there. They say that this will be not palatable for a lot of people, but they are guided by a higher voice and they will continue to do that. They are answerable to the constitution. This was a full frontal attack in a veiled manner, but that veil has now gone away in the manner in which it is being analyzed on media all evening and all afternoon today.
No, I think it's
this
the judgment,
full frontal attack
it's the judgment which spells that point out very
by
clearly.
way of a
Sure, just bear with me. I want to go across to Mr. Katneshwarkar. Sir, one of the points that was also mentioned by Mohammed over here was that the registrar in the register, I should say, in this particular area where they stayed, in this particular place where they stayed, did not have mention of Judge Loya's presence. So therefore, there's a question mark over there. Was he actually there or not? So what is the response in the judgment to that?
No, there is no need to mark any question mark, because the court has specifically observed, after looking the originals of the register, that because of a marriage function of a judge's daughter, a VIP suite was booked in the name of the High Court. There was a person from the High Court who has signed the register, and it is not necessary that each and every person should sign the register as well as each and every person's name should be there. So the court has specifically mentioned that if they had shared a room, all three persons, then that can't be a doubt about the stay of those persons in that
But Mohammed,
guest
this
house.
is another point that some of the petitioners had also raised, that when there were rooms available, why would these three judges...
correct.
Yeah, but what's wrong if they were friends, and they were friends, we know that is a fact, right? And they'd gone for a celebration, if they were in a room together celebrating, then what is wrong with that?
I'll go one step further. If this was the only fact available for the learned court to consider and they disregarded it, it would be fine. But look at the background, Vishnu. Look at how this entire thing starts. There's a judge. He's appointed to listen to the Sohrabuddin Sheikh matter. He summons Amit Shah. He's transferred the day before that summons comes through. Justice Loya comes in. He dies under what we are alleging are mysterious circumstances. The guy who comes after him reads thousands of pages, decides the entire case immediately, discharges Amit Shah, is not challenged before the Supreme Court. Now we come to the entire case itself. And I know many of these arguments would have been raised before the Supreme Court.
But what the Supreme Court, Mohammed, has categorically said today is they are only interested in knowing the circumstances of the death of Judge Loya. Was it natural or not? So therefore what you're talking about, the previous instance, and whether Amit Shah should have appeared in court or he should not have appeared in court, what the past judge did, and he was transferred this, that and the other, that has no bearing on murder, according to the court.
So I'll tell you why.
No murder.
I'll tell you why. This constellation of circumstances, Vishnu, becomes very relevant because of what transpires after that.
It's circumstantial.
It's circumstantial.
It's hugely circumstantial.
Absolutely.
You're linking up what happened with the previous court, a previous judge in a court,
absolutely,
with the death of a person.
No. If you let me complete. Let me just put the chain before you, and I'll take no more than 20 seconds to do this. First of all, Justice Loya travels all the way from Mumbai to Nagpur. A railway ticket is not available. That is our contention. Two, when he arrives at this Bhavan, none of the people, none of the employees, 15 out of 17 employees don't even recall that he stayed there. None of them recall that a judge was ever admitted to a hospital. Tell me, Vishnu, does it not seem suspicious to you a judge would fall in the middle of the night in a judge's guest house, and these two judges, who are his colleagues and best friends, would put him in an auto and take him and not inform anyone? Or whatever is their version. Let's take their version at face value. But the fact is, till date, none of the employees are questioned, and the employees say that we don't know what transpired. Number three, the reports, the ECG. That other report which had to do with
but the ECG point, there is a counter. The other point that you said is that this judge was put in an auto and taken. Question marks were raised by the lawyers saying that, look, there was no auto available in that particular area. How did you find an auto? Right. However, the judges, the judges called brother judges who came in their cars, one of these vehicles transported him to the first medical facility and then the second medical facility.
I take that at face value.
And they testified to this.
Perfect, Vishnu. Let's take that at face value. They get to the hospital. First, there's no ECG machine. Then suddenly an ECG report materializes. There's a postmortem conducted by a guy who is the brother-in-law of the sitting finance minister of the state. Vishnu, the circumstances are many and multifarious. The learned Supreme Court may have taken a literal interpretation and gone with a strict interpretation, and we respect that. but we also have the right to differ from that opinion, and that is what we are respectfully doing here today.
I tell you, one of the points that was mentioned, I think by Prashant Bhushan earlier on, and there was a soundbite of his as well, is that the testimony of the brother judges, the friends, was not presented in the form of an affidavit. And according to Mr. Bhushan, that should not have stood the scrutiny of the judges of the law, and that there was wrong. Was there any legal, in your opinion, weakness in the statements made by these judges on what happened?
Vishnu, this was not a criminal trial that was going on. The statements of these judges were not recorded as witnesses in a criminal trial. That was an inquiry that had happened in the death of the judge. The Supreme Court has come to a categoric finding that there is no iota of doubt that there is any suspicious circumstance around the death of Judge Loya. There is a categoric finding by the apex court of this country that the death of Judge Loya is a natural death and there is no suspicious circumstance. Where do we go from here? Do we want to reinstate a Privy Council? Do we want to go the totalitarian government's way? Do we want to go have the Chinese way or the Pakistani way? Do we want to respect rule of law? Do we want to respect democracy or not? Where are we going to go? And if you actually have problems with the Supreme Court judgment, you know, everyone is entitled to a legal recourse. If you actually think there are legal infirmities, don't attack the Supreme Court in the manner that you are doing. Don't attack the judges of the Supreme Court. Don't scandalize and, you know, interfere in the administration of justice. There is a remedy of review that is available. Go and, have that remedy of review that is available. All that has been said about the background of the case and, you know, charges having been dropped. Why? Who challenged it? Why nobody has challenged it? There are legal recourses available. Yeah. The problem is when we start taking extrajudicial, extra legal and extra constitutional mechanisms, that too against the Supreme Court of India. Where are we? Where are we headed to?
The PIL is extra constitutional, but yes, the Supreme Court has questioned its use in this particular case. But Mr. Katneshwarkar, let me ask you
this discussion. This attack on the judgment, this attack on the judges and this attack on the Supreme Court after the judgment is extra constitutional. Okay, I did not say PIL was
okay, fair enough. I misunderstood you. Sir, tell me one thing. Would the family be lying over here? Why is it that, you know, so many members of the family believe that there was something wrong? They've chosen to speak to media. Yes, the Supreme Court did raise question marks on aspects of the reportage. Be that as it may, why would many members of the family feel so aggrieved? Why would they feel so scared? Why would they want to come out with all of this so many years after his death? Do you not believe that this is something that we are missing, the family and their account?
No, because I have carefully seen the statements or says of the family members. They have no iota of doubt about natural death of Judge Loya. Okay. Because I have personally seen the statements. I will repeat again. When they were interviewed by Mr. Niranjan Takle,
yes, the
they were not informed that they were being video shooted.
No, but
so they were not aware about it.
No, but and one second.
Somehow they were instigated to make
you're raising the issue of unethical journalism. That's your point. I'm asking, did they not share the information that they believe that his death was foul? There was foul play in his death. They raised this point. They raised question marks on who called them. They raised question marks on how he was taken to hospital. They raised question marks on how his body was handed over, that it wasn't handed over to the family. They raised question marks on another judge, and all sorts of allegations. Not going to repeat them because, they could be entirely wrong.
I'll repeat them.
But the family, sir, and their views at the end of the day, how can we disregard it completely?
No, I have seen and read the statements carefully of all the family members. So they have believed that the Judge Loya died of a natural death, and they have no doubt on anybody about the death of Judge Loya. They have categorically said so. That's why there was no occasion for the court to again go further and demand or direct for certain kind of SIT or inquiry by an independent agency. So every aspect or every paper of the discrete inquiry report was considered in its proper perspective.
Okay, Mohammed, you had quickly, because we're running out of time, carry on.
30 seconds. First, I want to address what Ms. Bhatti said. Ms. Bhatti said that we are making scurrilous remarks against the Supreme Court. Let me tell you, no one holds the Supreme Court in greater regard than the Congress Party of India. We've done so for 60 years. Speaking out against our court is a reflection of the fact that we respect our court. Yes, the very fact that we are raising our voices, Vishnu, is a sign of the fact that we respect our court and we respect the fact that they can abide different opinions.
If you have such a divergence in views, why doesn't the Congress Party try and get involved in this case now and then file a review petition?
Because as you said in the beginning, this we believe is a political issue. That's why we took it to the People's Court. That's why we went to the President of India, and that's why we will continue raising it. Vishnu, this is not simply a legal issue. One last thing, Mr. Counsel, you spoke about the statements given by the family members. Is it not correct, Mr. Counsel, that on the 21st of November 2017, the sister and the husband gave a statement with regard to bribes being offered and with regard to intimidation, and on 27th the Maharashtra SID recorded statements from them.
Let him reply.
No, on the 27th they recanted the statements.
One second.
So what transpired during that time?
Inquiry by the family members. So you can't cross-examine me like this.
No, I'm asking you. I'm not cross-examining you, I'm asking you.
The details of the discrete inquiry report. You have no business to ask me questions like this.
I'm sorry, sir. I have every right to ask you questions, especially when you claim to speak on behalf of a state. Please, if you're a public servant, then you should be open to answers.
Because you have not seen the statements of the discrete inquiry content.
I am certain that you have asked me more familiar with the contents. If you would answer.
1 second, Mohammed. Let him answer. Go ahead, sir. And then, go ahead with what you're saying. The discrete inquiry which was conducted on where exactly these judges were, that's what you're referring to. Carry on with your point, sir. Yes.
And the family statements, that's what he's referring to.
I was saying,
carry on,
one must appreciate the efforts of the state of Maharashtra. Yes, one must appreciate the efforts of the state of Maharashtra, because when the article was published in the magazine, not a single petition was pending in any court of India. Still, the state of Maharashtra felt it necessary to conduct an inquiry. There was no first information report by any family member of Judge Loya. But still, the state of Maharashtra directed the highest officer of the State Intelligence Department to conduct a discrete inquiry. Discrete inquiry was conducted by the Director General of State Intelligence Department. Says were recorded, then medical papers were collected, the police papers were collected, and
Mr.
when
Counsel,
the
can you tell me
petition
why
was being
Justice
heard
Loya
by
security
the
was
Supreme
withdrawn?
Court, upon inquiry, all the papers
can you
and
tell me why
one second, Mr. Katishwarkar, I need to wrap this up.
Independently by the court.
We are completely out of time, but I suspect that there will be a review petition which will be filed in this particular case. One way or the other, we entirely respect what the Supreme Court has ruled today. That goes without question. But there are those who believe that justice has not been delivered. That's their perspective. We're going to quickly move on. The IMF chief, Christine Lagarde, has said that Prime Minister Modi should do more for women. She was responding to a question asked about India's economic reforms in the backdrop of the Kathua rape case. She said that though this was her own opinion, it was important. However, she did clarify that this was not the opinion of the International Monetary Fund.
What has happened is just revolting. And I would hope that the Indian authorities, starting with Prime Minister Modi, pay more attention, because it is needed for the women of India. When I was last in Davos after Prime Minister Modi's speech, I did tell him that he had not mentioned the women of India enough. And it's not just a question of talking about them. By the way, this is not an IMF official position, it is my position.
All right, very strong words there from the IMF chief, though she did clarify she wasn't speaking in that capacity. But perhaps it is time for some introspection among our top leaders on how they choose to address and speak about the Unnao and Kathua rape incidents. I'd like to thank all of you very much for being with us. Goodbye.